It was supposed to be a calm, thought-provoking discussion on global feminism and media accountability. Instead, it turned into one of the most talked about television moments of the year. Meghan Markle had agreed to appear on CNN International for an exclusive segment hosted by the legendary journalist Christiane Amanpour. The topic: women, power, and perception in the modern world. It sounded like a perfect fit for Meghan, until it wasn't. From the moment the cameras rolled, tension filled the air. Meghan, dressed in a sleek cream-colored suit, sat confidently across from Amanpour, who was known for her unflinching interviews. But the smiles exchanged at the start didn't last long. The calm before the storm. Amanpour began with grace and professionalism. Meghan, she said, you've spoken often about the difficulties of being in the public eye. But some critics say you've used that attention to build a media brand rather than to promote genuine advocacy. How do you respond to that? Meghan's smile flickered. I think it's unfair when women are criticized for using their voices. If I were a man, nobody would say I'm building a brand. They'd say I'm building influence for good. Amanpour nodded, but her tone sharpened. Fair enough. But you've also faced backlash for monetizing your royal connection, through podcasts, documentaries, and now, your upcoming book. Doesn't that blur the line between activism and personal gain? The studio went quiet. Meghan took a measured breath. Christiane, with respect, I think it's easy to reduce a woman's work to money when she's trying to stand on her own 2 feet. I left the royal family to live independently, not to be silenced. A tense exchange. The discussion might have stayed polite, but Amanpour pressed harder. You've often criticized the royal institution, she said. Do you think it's appropriate to speak publicly about private family matters while demanding privacy yourself? That question hit a nerve. Meghan's expression changed instantly. I'm sorry, she said slowly, but that question is rooted in a double standard. When newspapers wrote false stories about me, day after day, no one asked them to stay quiet. When I speak my truth, suddenly I'm the problem. Amanpour folded her arms slightly. But don't you think that by continuing to talk about these issues, you keep the controversy alive? Meghan leaned forward, her voice rising just enough to be noticed. Christiane, silence doesn't heal wounds. It hides them. The reason I talk is because women around the world are silenced by shame and fear. If my story helps even one woman speak up, it's worth it. The audience, mostly journalists and students, applauded softly. But Amanpour wasn't finished. Some say, she continued, that you've used the platform of victimhood as a means of maintaining relevance. That your narrative of oppression has overshadowed the privileges you've enjoyed. That did it. Meghan's composure cracked. Victimhood. She repeated sharply. So because I married a prince, I'm not allowed to have pain. Is that it? You, as a woman of color, should understand how damaging that narrative is. Amanpour's eyebrows rose. This isn't about race, Meghan. It's about accountability in the public sphere. The breaking point. For a moment, it felt like both women were speaking different languages, each convinced the other was missing the point. Accountability works both ways, Meghan shot back. The British media destroyed my reputation. They lied about my family, my mental health, even my child. Where was the accountability then? Or do journalists only care when it sells headlines? Amanpour, unshaken, replied, but you're sitting here, on CNN, still getting the world's attention. That's power, Meghan. How you use it matters. Meghan shook her head. Power without compassion isn't worth having. At that, the tension in the room became almost physical. The producers exchanged nervous glances. The control room buzzed with whispered discussions about whether to cut to a break. And then, it happened. Amanpour asked one more question. Would you ever return to the royal family if they asked you to? Meghan paused, visibly angry. That's an absurd question. After everything, no woman should be expected to go back to the place where she lost her voice. When Amanpour tried to follow up, Meghan interrupted sharply, I think this interview is over. Chaos on set. Cameras kept rolling as Meghan stood up, removing her mic. I came here to talk about empowerment, not to be interrogated like I'm on trial. Amanpour tried to calm the situation. Meghan, please, this isn't an attack. But Meghan was already walking off stage. I've dealt with enough of this from the tabloids. I won't deal with it here. The control room quickly cut to a commercial break. When the broadcast resumed, Amanpour, ever the professional, addressed the viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be continuing our discussion on women in media shortly. Meghan Markle has chosen to end her segment early. Social media exploded within minutes. Hashtag Meghan on CNN trended worldwide. Some praised her for standing up for herself, others accused her of being overly defensive. Behind the scenes, sources claimed that CNN executives were furious at the disruption. Rumors spread that Meghan had been asked to leave the studio immediately after the segment. What no one knew yet was that this confrontation would spark a much larger fallout, one that would drag both women into a storm of headlines and force Meghan to make a dramatic public decision in the days that followed. The fallout from Meghan Markle's abrupt walkout on CNN International was immediate and brutal. Within hours, clips of her heated exchange with Christiane Amanpour flooded social media platforms. Every network, podcast, and YouTube commentator dissected every raised eyebrow, every sharp breath, and every word that left Meghan's lips. By morning, headlines screamed across major outlets. Meghan storms off CNN. Amanpour silences Meghan with one question. Markle's meltdown on live TV. What had started as a discussion about empowerment turned into a media storm bigger than anyone at CNN, or Meghan's PR team, had anticipated. The aftermath. Meghan stayed silent for 2 days. No public appearances. No statements. No posts on her foundation's Instagram. But behind closed doors in Montecito, sources said she was furious. Her team argued over strategy. Some wanted her to apologize and reframe the argument as a miscommunication. Others insisted she stand her ground, doubling down on the message that strong women shouldn't be punished for showing emotion. Meanwhile, Christiane Amanpour handled the controversy in her signature calm way. On the next episode of her show, she addressed the incident briefly. We had a spirited exchange, as journalists and guests often do. I have great respect for Meghan and her advocacy, but my job is to ask the difficult questions. That's what journalism is. Her professionalism only deepened the contrast between the two women in the public eye. Amanpour was praised for her composure. Meghan, however, was accused by critics of being thin-skinned and unable to handle scrutiny. The Daily Mail ran an editorial titled, "The Princess Who Can't Be Questioned." CNN's ratings spiked, but so did controversy within the network. Some producers argued that inviting Meghan had been a mistake. Others defended her, saying Amanpour had been too aggressive. Meghan speaks out. On the third day, Meghan broke her silence. She released a video statement through her Archwell platform, filmed in her garden, surrounded by greenery and soft sunlight. I've always believed that women deserve to speak their truth without being ridiculed, she began. That interview was meant to be about empowerment and healing, but it turned into something else. I was asked questions that felt more like accusations than curiosity. Her tone was steady, but her eyes revealed exhaustion. I respect journalism, she continued. I always have. But we must remember that compassion and accountability are not opposites. You can challenge someone without tearing them down. Her message was powerful, but it divided audiences once again. Supporters called it a masterclass in grace. Critics called it damage control disguised as activism. In CNN, they released a short statement confirming Meghan had concluded her appearance early, and that there were no further plans for continuation. Insiders, however, told another story. Meghan's future with CNN, or any major live network, was uncertain. Public reactions. The reaction from the public was a storm of polarization. On one side, fans flooded social media with hashtags like #WeStandWithMeghan and #LetWomenSpeak. Celebrities like Serena Williams and Priyanka Chopra reportedly reached out privately with support. But on the other side, royal commentators in the UK had a field day. Piers Morgan called it the most predictable meltdown in TV history. The Sun published an opinion piece titled, "Maybe Meghan should stop talking about privacy if she hates questions so much." Even the BBC aired a debate on whether Meghan's activism had turned into celebrity performance. Amid all the noise, Christiane Amanpour remained silent. But leaks from CNN staffers suggested she was deeply disappointed by how the incident had been portrayed. Christiane wasn't attacking her, one producer told reporters. She was doing her job. Meghan just didn't like the heat. The turning point. Then came an unexpected twist. A week after the interview, Meghan was invited to speak at the Women in Global Media conference in Los Angeles, a major event attended by journalists, activists, and academics. Many expected her to decline after the CNN controversy. Instead, she confirmed her attendance. When she stepped onto the stage, the room went silent. Cameras flashed. Everyone wondered, would she address what had happened? She did. "I made a mistake," Meghan said candidly. "I walked off that set because I felt attacked. But walking away didn't serve the women I claim to stand for. If we want honest conversations, we have to stay in the room, even when it's uncomfortable." The audience applauded. Some even stood. She continued. Christiane Amanpour asked tough questions. And though I didn't like them, she was right to ask. That's what strong women do, we hold each other accountable. Her words changed everything. The tone of the headlines shifted overnight. Meghan owns up. Markle shows maturity after CNN clash. From meltdown to masterclass, Meghan's redemption. Amanpour responds. The following week, Christiane Amanpour appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. When asked about Meghan's remarks, she smiled. She showed great courage, Amanpour said. It's not easy to admit when emotions take over. I respect her for that. We need more conversations like that, just with a little less drama. The audience laughed. But it was clear there was mutual respect now, a reconciliation of two strong women who had clashed under the spotlight but ultimately found common ground. Epilogue. Weeks later, CNN quietly uploaded the unedited version of the interview to their website, showing moments that had been cut for time. Viewers saw that both women had shared points of vulnerability and warmth before things turned tense. The full picture changed public perception once again. Many realized the confrontation had been less about hostility, and more about two powerful women struggling to be heard in a media landscape that thrives on conflict. Meghan's team later confirmed she was launching a new initiative to train young women in media confidence and ethical storytelling. As one commentator put it best, Meghan may have been kicked off CNN, but she turned the exit into an entrance to something much bigger.